Hey, we're back with more Common Knowledge here on Common Knowledge MTG. We're going to be looking at 10 common Magic the Gathering cards, if you can believe it, with all the times I've said common already. And we're going to tell you if they're any good in the Pauper format or not. And it's just a little thing we do here, and we've done it for 157 times before this one, which means it's time for 158. Let's see what our first card is. It is Soul Shackled Zombie. For 3 and a black, you get a 4/2 zombie. When this creature enters, you exile up to 2 target cards from a single graveyard. If at least 1 creature card was exiled this way, each opponent loses 2 life, and you gain 2 life. That is a lot of text for not a particularly incredible card. It's okay. Originally and only from Foundations, which is interesting to me. But 4 mana for a 4/2 is, it's maybe a touch below rate. We like Graveyard Hate in Pauper. There's always a graveyard deck going around, or something that plays with a graveyard, so that's never the worst part. It also says from a single graveyard, so this could definitely be from your graveyard as well. I do like that it's a drain effect. It makes the mana cost a little bit easier to swallow, but overall, I think this is not a particularly amazing card. It just, we have better options both as creatures and both as Graveyard Hate options. And also as creatures with Graveyard Hate options. I think we'd take the Fairy Macabre 10 times out of 10 over this. But you can't blink a Fairy Macabre, I guess. This is still bad. trying to give it its flowers, and I still just really can't. Let's give this thing a 2.7, I think. No, I'll bump it up a little higher. Let's go for a 2.9, I think. It is 4 power. I like 4 power. Next is Tangle Trap. For 1 and a green, you get an instant. Choose 1. Tangle Trap deals 5 damage to target creature with flying, or you destroy target artifact. I famously do like cards with modality on them. I like being able to choose different things. I think 5 damage to a flyer is okay at instant speed, but we just do have ways of destroying creatures with flying for this amount of mana. So that's a bit of a downgrade in that instance. And then we also have plenty of naturalized effects that can destroy target artifact or enchantment. And this not being able to hit enchantments is a bit of a big deal, Bogles and White Heroic are hanging around the format. We certainly have more artifacts being played than we have enchantments. This is certainly better than if it said destroy target enchantment instead of target artifact. But we just have other stuff. We have other stuff that does this kind of effect really well. It's not exactly the same, but something like Heritage Reclamation, is that the right one? Yeah, this is what I'm thinking of. It's a naturalized that also can exile a card. We like that a little bit better. We just have a bunch of these kind of modal green spells that are 2 mana instants that can do a number of different things. And I don't know that these 2 things are the best things. Like if they were one of the options and the other option was really good, then I'd be a little bit more interested. But them both being somewhat middling options, I think you'd need a third option here to really convert me to its side. It's fine. You could make the argument that this would be a decent sideboard piece where you're going to go up against Affinity and you could bring it in, or if you're going up against, I'm trying to think of like what deck is playing big flyers. This takes out core Skyfishers and fairies for sure, but you don't need to do 5 damage to a fairy. Like, what do you really need to do 5 damage to in the air? Dragons, I guess. A Feral Stormshrieker, a Segu Wildling, I guess. But those are still just 3 toughness creatures, so I think we have better ways of dealing with those than a card like this. It's okay, but I think you just have many more sideboard options available to you in green that will serve you a lot better than Tangle Trap will. So we're still going to give this thing, I think I'm going to give it a 3.5. Maybe I'll bump it up to a 3.6 because these are both fine options, and it does have that modality. It is instant speed. We like all these things. but I think we have other options that are just more useful. Next up, Urza's Mine. We have done Un-Urza land before. I don't remember if it was the mine or not. Maybe it was the tower. I can't remember. So I'll quickly tell you that this is the best Urza's Mine. Well, this art anyway. This is the one I like. There are other good Urza's Mines as well. I mean, I think most of the Urza's Mines actually look pretty good. Yeah, you kind of like this one that's like a Howling Mine a little bit. This one's okay. I'm not a huge fan of this one. You know, there's some out there. Urza's Mine, great. The Urza lands are awesome. They're almost busted, I would say. We see multiple style Tron decks. Tron being talking about Urza lands specifically. That when you, I guess I should read what the card does first. Urza's Mine. It's a land that's also called Urza's Mine. You can tap it for a colorless, and if you control an Urza's Power Plant and an Urza's Tower, this taps for 2 colorless mana instead. So you put all the Urza's lands together. The mine makes 2, the power plant makes 2, the tower makes 3 when you have all 3 of them together. So when you have all 3, it makes 7 colorless mana when you tap the 3 of them. That's pretty good out of 3 lands. So we have a number of decks that do play the Tron lands. I have a Tron deck, a monster Tron deck, which I like quite a bit, putting out big cascadey creatures that bring in other big cascadey creatures, and that's quite a good time. We see Altertron, we see Flickertron. I've seen some Trons that are doing more like ping effects that are kind of cool, like drain effect stuff. That's pretty neat. Tron is a pretty flexible archetype in Pauper, and there are lots of cards that work with it. We've got Crop Rotation that's able to go and sacrifice a land to go tutor up any land in your deck. That's a good way of getting the Urza lands that you need, that you're missing. Expedition Map, World Map from Final Fantasy. We have some ways of grabbing those lands now that really does get you to Tron pretty quickly. Natural Tron is having all 3 of the Tron lands being played on turn 3, and those are just when you draw them or have them in your opening hand. But you can also get to Tron in turn 3 by playing an Expedition Map. Expedition Map is a single mana, and so you can play it on turn 1 with one of the Urza lands. You play a second Urza land, then you can crack it for 2 and go find the third one and play that third one on turn 3, and then have your 7 mana to do whatever you need to do with. It's great. It's so good that we've found lots of decks that are willing to go through the effort to go find these lands, because they are really, really good when you can play them together. The tower, I guess, gets a little bit of more of a score than the mine and the power plant do, but they're all good. They're all good. They're all like, I don't know, like 9.3s. It's I forgot what I gave. I think we did the power plant before, which I think is my favorite one, just in terms of all the different arts for it. I think power plant's the better one. So whatever I gave the power plant would be the same here, but I'm gonna say for today, I think this is a 9.3. This is one of the better cards that you could possibly play in Pauper. Really cool to see it here. Power Sync is X and a blue. This is not the Power Sync art I want. Yeah, you gotta get this P hands, man. You love that. Power Sync is X and a blue for an instant. Counter target spell unless its controller pays X. If that player doesn't, they tap all lands with mana abilities they control and lose all unspent mana. This is a cool card because you're forcing them to pay, and even if they can't pay, you just make them lose all their mana, which can really stop a deck cold. That maybe they're trying to, I wouldn't necessarily say storm off, although I guess that does kind of prevent some storm in a way. But you're just denying them of playing multiple cards. So even it's not just that you're doing like a spell pierce. Hey, I'm spending a mana and you have to spend 2 more mana to get that spell across. It is that, but it's not the choice for the opponent. The choice is, do you have enough mana to pay for this, or do you just lose all your mana for that turn? And in that instance, Power Sync is kind of great. It's pretty modal in that way because with the X cost that you can spend as many mana as you got and just stop the opponent cold. We have more efficient counter spells, and we generally play those in Pauper before we play Power Sync. Power Sync, I don't think has really seen much of any play in Pauper that I know of. Not in the decks that I play. Even the decks with blue that I play, I've never seen anyone try a Power Sync in them. But I don't think it would be a bad card. Yeah, I don't think it would be a bad card. Let me see these other Power Syncs. Are there any? Oh, I do really like the Ice Age one. Yeah, God, that's a pretty nice card. Pretty nice looking card too. The Mirage one's pretty good. Oh, I do kind of like the Tempest one. Yeah, we got a lot of good ones, honestly. Yeah, Power Sync. It's a great card. People should probably consider playing it, but in the pantheon of all the different counter spells we have access to in Pauper, this one's probably somewhere in the middle. I think we just have ones that are more efficient or just hit more. Well, it's not that it hits more things because this can counter any spell, but it's just that it pay 2 blue and you stop the spell. You just counter the spell entirely. You don't have to spend more of your own mana, and I don't know. I still really like Power Sync. I'm gonna give this thing a 4.6. I think it might just be on the outside of playability for Pauper, but cool card. Primal Boost is our next card. 2 and a green for an instant. Target creature gets +4/+4 until end of turn, and it also has cycling for 2 and a green, which is interesting because that's its same cost. When you cycle this card, you may have target creature get +1/+1 until end of turn. 3 mana instant speed +4/+4. Is this worth paying 3 times as much as a giant growth to get 1 and I don't know. It's not 1 1/3, right? That's not quite right on the math, but I don't think that's a good enough rate. I think you'd rather just play giant growth at that point. It does have cycling. We are fans of cycling here at Common Knowledge, but I don't like that it cycles for its same cost. Generally, I like things that cycle and they cost a little bit less, especially when you're just cycling to get you're discarding this card, you're drawing a card. That's what cycling is. But then you just get +1/+1. I think for 3 mana, that's not a very good deal either. So I'm kind of getting 2 bad deals in one card, and I suppose we call that modality. And the part of when you play a modal card, and we just talked about it with Tangle Trap there, is that generally the 2 or multiple options that you have are not as good effects as some of the more targeted, more narrow effects would be. That makes some sense. You're trading versatility, or you're trading power for versatility. I think you're giving up a little too much in this trade for Primal Boost. Yeah, I think you are. I don't like this. I don't really like this at all, and I'm going to give it a 2.3, I guess, and I want to give it less than that, but it does cycle. It just does draw you a card when you don't need it, and it is nice to have cyclers that do something when you cycle it too. You're not just getting the card, you're getting something else. But +1/+1 and draw a card is kind of a bad spell, even if, because of the way this is an ability and not a spell anymore, that it's uncounterable. I don't know. I still can't justify the price. Rot Crown Ghoul is 4 and a blue for a 3/3 zombie. When this creature dies, target player mills 5 cards. 5 cards is a pretty decent amount of cards. You could put this in like a Dimir style deck and use those, hey, when this creature dies, it comes back to the battlefield thing. that could be interesting. You know, if you're already playing black, you have ways of sacrificing this thing too, and then bringing it back. I think you could make an argument of how to play this card in that way. It also says target player, so you could target yourself if you want to put this in like a mono blue terror or something like that, or a Dimir terror when you're just trying to get cards into your graveyard to play your Tolarian terrors. The problem is this costs 5 mana. 5 mana is a lot of mana. You're not going to be able to play this very early in mono blue terror, and you really need to mill the stuff early in your mono blue terror deck so you can then pay for your terrors and your cryptic serpents. And you don't want to wait until your Rock Crown Ghoul is available, because then you should have played 4 serpents by then. And I don't think it's, even though 5 is a pretty good chunk of their library, I still don't think a 5 mana more or less vanilla 3/3 is all that useful in any of your decks. Yeah, I don't particularly like this. I'm going to give this thing I think it's just going to get a 2. Costs way too much, and you'd have to be in a strategy that's more about milling. And if you're in a strategy that's more about milling, you just have better cards available to you, and you double don't play this. So has no real place in Pauper. What do we got next? It is Salvage Slasher. For 1 and a black, you get a 1/1 artifact creature human rogue. And this creature gets +1/+0 for each artifact card in your graveyard. That's interesting. We don't mind that. We have plenty of ways of, milling. Not using that Rock Crown Ghoul, but plenty of ways of milling yourself in dredge style decks. You could make a dredge deck that is more artifact based to make this thing pretty decently huge. You have plenty of affinity decks that are happy to sacrifice their own artifacts, Eager Wellspring and things like that. Jund Wildfire is sacrificing Eager Wellsprings and things like that too. So you do have some decks that are going to pretty easily put artifact cards in your graveyard. Now, as we said, Graveyard Hate is pretty prevalent in the format. We really like Graveyard Hate because there are so many graveyard decks in the format. And if somebody wipes out your graveyard, well, this guy goes back to being a 2 mana 1/1, which is a really bad rate. You don't like that. But that's the floor. The ceiling is this thing could be, I don't know, a 6/1, a 7/1, a 10/1, and you could do some really big chunks of damage with this thing. And if you're, you're already in black, so you have ways of removing opponent's creatures and letting this thing swing in more freely. Kind of interesting. We have cards that kind of do this and maybe do it a little bit better, or have a creature that's a little bit more protected when it comes in and does that. But think about cards like Cranial Ram that got banned in the format before they even showed up, and while Cranial Ram and the one from Mirrodin, the original one, that does the same thing. That's those are +1/+0 for the amount of artifacts on the field, or on your side of the field rather, instead of just in your graveyard. But we've seen how those effects can be too strong. Both of those cards, the Mirrodin one and the Cranial Ram, are cranial plating. That's what the other one's called. Those are both banned out of the format because they're so good. And I think Salvage Slasher is not, because one, it's a creature by itself that doesn't have haste, so you do give your opponent more of a chance to stop this. And because it's a creature, they have more options available to stop it, from spells that can kill this thing to creatures that can block this thing. Still, though, I kind of like it as a thing that just can come down on the board. It's something that's good at multiple points in the game. Relatively good early game is just a 2 mana body that you can play that will get bigger over time. Pretty good in the mid game, where this thing can be like a 3/1 or a 5/1, something like that. And then in the late game, like I mentioned, if this thing gets up to be a 9/1, 10/1, something like that, this could be a really good finisher that you're playing for 2 mana. And maybe you do have a way to give it haste. I don't know. Something to consider. I'm going to give this thing a 3.9, I think. It still is pretty easy to take out. You know, an electrickery knocks this thing out before you can really even do anything with it. But, you know, it's not a ball lightning exactly. Ball lightning has trample and haste and, you know, comes in and wrecks shop. And this thing doesn't do that. You know, if your opponent does have blockers, this thing just trades with something. And that can be a feel bad. You want to be able to give this thing trample or first strike or, you know, kill all the creatures to let it swing in more freely. But there's still a ceiling to this that is pretty appealing. And for that, I'm going to give it that score there. Not too bad. What do we got next? It's Ether Spellbomb. For a single mana, you get an artifact that either you can pay a blue mana to sacrifice this artifact and return target creature to its owner's hand, or you can pay 1 and sacrifice this artifact to draw a card. All the Mirrodin Spellbombs have that second text to be able to just sack it and draw a card, kind of an egg style effect that way. But then each of these Mirrodin Spellbombs have some kind of ability that you pay the color that it naturally goes with. So this one is an unsummon effect. That's also on kind of a draw egg effect. These are cool. I remember liking these a lot in Mirrodin. They felt really good to play when I was just playing kitchen table kind of Magic and Magic with my friends. We weren't making standard decks or anything like that, but it just felt like a good card to stuff in your decks. Even if you weren't playing those colors, it was kind of nice to just have some eggs that could crack and draw another card when you needed them to. So I'm very fond of these. These are not the best spellbombs in the game. The Scars of Mirrodin ones, Nihil Spellbomb, that's the one you're probably most familiar with because it is the one that's most played in Pauper. That's from Scars of Mirrodin. But these original Mirrodin ones, I think are pretty solid. They vary a little bit, but I think the Ether Spellbomb is one of the better ones for having that unsummon effect. It can work on your own creatures too, just like an unsummon if you want to do bouncy effects with that. But you can also just have a thing that's ready to stop one of your opponent's big creatures, and if they choose not to swing in, well, you can just sacrifice it and draw a card off it too, if you really need one of those. Pretty versatile card, has a lot of cool uses. You can grab it with a Trinket Mage, you can get it back with Lean and Squire, all sorts of cool stuff that you can do with cool little Spellbomb egg things like this. I like it. I'm going to give it a 3.5, I believe. Good nostalgic card for me. Jamaron Lion is 2 and a white for a 3/1 cat. You can pay 1 and tap it, and target creature can't block this turn. It's not very good. 3 mana for a 3/1 is pretty bad, and I don't love that it has to tap itself for this ability to work. And I don't think the ability's all that good either. Just having a target creature not be able to block. That could be okay, I suppose. The problem is I would want a creature not to be able to block so I can swing in with this guy. Because he's 3 power. But that's not going to happen unless this guy also gets vigilance in some way. And I don't think you want to spend that many resources to give this thing vigilance because it's also a 1 toughness creature that's very easy to get popped, and then you've lost all this mana value on it and tempo. I think this is pretty bad. I think this is I wouldn't even call this a trap, because at least the trap makes it sound good. I don't think anything on this card really sounds good. I think it's just bad. I think it's just bad. And for that, I'm going to give this thing a 1.4. Yeah, 1.4. Bad card. Mardu Devotee is a relatively new card here from Tarkir Dragonstorm. Single white mana gets you a 1/2 human scout. When it enters, you scry 2, and you can pay 1 to add red, white, or black. And you can activate that only once per turn. These are cool. I really liked these Devotee cards. It's a cycle that we saw in Tarkir Dragonstorm for all the different clans that just helped you filter mana. And I think this is the best one, being that it's both a 1-drop, which not all of them are 1-drops. This one being a 1-drop fixes your mana right away. I love that it scries 2 when it enters. We saw April O'Neil Kunoichi card yesterday, 2 days ago. And that card is 2 mana, and when it comes down, it scries 2. This does it at 1 mana. That's better. And the filtering's not too bad. We do see some Mardu decks in the format. Mardu Metalcraft is really the kind of one Mardu deck. But this doesn't have to just go into a Mardu deck. It could go into Boros. It could go into Orzhov. You could put this in Orzhov Blade as a mana fixer that also is something that's halfway worth bouncing to be able to play again and scry again. You could even have this on the board, use its filter, and then bounce it back to your hand, play it again, and then use its filter again. Something you could do. That's interesting. It does take a lot of mana to make that work, but if you very specifically need black mana or red mana, or I guess white mana in that instance, although if you paid the white mana to play this guy, I assume you had the white mana already. But there are ways of getting this effect more than once a turn if you blink or bounce it. Interesting. I like this guy. I like him a lot. Like I said, he's my favorite devotee. I think the next one would probably be the Sultai one, because I think it has Death Touch. That's not bad on it either, if you're just looking for like a 2-mana guy who filters but also like swings in halfway decently. I don't hate that either. Or is just like a good blocker too. But the Mardu one, this is a good card. I haven't really seen it show up. I think I remember seeing it in 1 or 2 lists, but I think we could consider this for a number of different decks, and I don't think it would embarrass you. I'm going to give this thing a 4.7, I think. Maybe just outside of playability, but really damn close. Really good card. I kind of want to end it there, being a nice, good card, but we do have a bonus card that we could do. Let's go ahead and do it. I just like doing cards. Acolyte of Zathrid. That's my guess. Single black mana for a 0/1 human cleric, and you can pay 1 and a black and tap it, and target player loses 1 life. That's not good. We should have ended it before. I don't know. This is fine. It's a lot of mana to have to play turn over turn to be able to get that effect. This just being a 0/1. I guess it's fine that it's a 0/1 because you're mostly just going to keep tapping it anyway. I suppose you could block with it and then tap it to do its effect, and so it does block a creature and gets a little extra out of the deal. No, this is pretty bad. I'm going to give this a let's go with a 2.2, I think. It is a repeatable effect that way. It does get around lots of board stall potential, I suppose. But it's also only ticking down 1 life a turn, so it's not all that great. I do wish it was more just a Tim style effect, a Prodigal Sorcerer style effect, where it could do a damage to anything. But it makes a little bit more sense in black that it would just cause a player to lose a life. That's more of its color pie. Anyway, we really should have ended with Mardu Devotee. But we'll end it there, and I'll see you tomorrow.